Get ready to party because we have the strangest dance scene since Pulp Fiction.
She's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Tim Burton's new series, Wednesday, based off the Addams Family, is a rip-roaring good time, which will have you saying,
"This is my costume. I'm a homicidal maniac."
I know that didn't make any sense, but I just wanted to put the clip in there. Be sure to like and subscribe and join me as we take a deep dive into Season 1 and the season's biggest cliffhangers.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Wednesday's first season is a murder mystery, several murders to be exact. It seems as soon as Wednesday Addams shows up to Nevermore Academy, a school for outcasts, bodies keep piling up. Now it's worth mentioning that Nevermore Academy isn't your typical school. Founded in 1791, the school is broken down into 4 main cliques: the Fangs, vampires, the Furs, werewolves, stoners, stone-turning gorgons, and Scales, sirens based off of Greek mythology. Wednesday, however, doesn't fall into any of these categories. She herself is an outcast at a school for outcasts. But as we'll see later, Wednesday possesses supernatural powers, and these powers help her get to the bottom of Nevermore's murderous monster. By the season's final episode, Wednesday is sure she has found the killer, fellow student Xavier Thorpe, who she believes transforms into a monster known as a Hyde. She's found him near the scene of several of the murders, and he has a weird compulsion to draw the very monster she claims him to be. But Hydes don't work alone. In fact, they're controlled by a master. After finding Xavier secretly meeting with town therapist Dr. Kinbot, she believes him to be controlled by her and has Xavier arrested. But as we'll soon find out, Xavier isn't the killer at all. In the season's second last episode, Wednesday tells Tyler Galpin, the sheriff's son and local barista, that she's solved the case and the two's ongoing will-they-won't-they sexual tension culminates in a kiss. This is a big step for Wednesday, who sees emotion as weakness.
Pugsley, emotion equals weakness.
Xavier even calls her out for it.
And let's be honest, emotion isn't exactly your strong suit.
But Wednesday has built up feelings for Tyler and lets her emotions take over, and ironically enough, this is what allows her to pinpoint him as the real killer. Throughout the season, Wednesday has experienced visions, both of the past and present. This is a supernatural ability her mother, Morticia, also possessed, but even by the end of the season, Wednesday isn't sure what triggers them. Learning to harness this powers will undoubtedly be something she'll need to cultivate, especially if she's going to survive in the dangerous world of Nevermore and surrounding town of Jericho. With Tyler surrounded, Wednesday and other members of the Nightshade Society, a secret elite club vowing to protect Nevermore, tie him up in Xavier's shed and confront him. Thing, Wednesday's one-handed companion, stole Tyler's dead mother's medical records where they learned his mother was a Hyde, as well as passed on this ability to him. Wednesday knows the only way to get at a Hyde is through pain, but none of her friends have what it takes to torture him and end up abandoning her, even going so far as to turn her into the cops. At the station, Tyler is let go. His dad is the sheriff, and there's no evidence to suggest he's the killer. In exchange for them not pressing charges against Wednesday or the school, Wednesday is to be expelled from Nevermore for good. And it gets worse. When Tyler and Wednesday are alone, he reveals his sinister secret, that he is indeed the monster.
What does it feel like?
What does what feel like?
To lose.
He's the bad guy, right?
Using Thing to distract the guards, Wednesday goes to Xavier, who is still on the hook for the murders, and he can't be too happy to see her, the girl who put him there. She tells him that she was wrong and that the real murderer is Tyler, and maybe Xavier can help. He has some sort of weird psychic connection with Tyler. But Xavier isn't having any of it.
Every time you get involved, people get hurt. All you ever do is make things worse.
Xavier's words pierce her like a dagger. Maybe he's right. Maybe the best thing for Nevermore is for her not to be there. She packs up her things, says goodbye to her roomie Enid, and is about to head home when she hears her friend Eugene Ottinger has awoken from his coma in the hospital. Eugene was one of Wednesday's first friends at Nevermore, and the two are the only members of the Nevermore Hummers, a beekeeping society. Eugene went by himself in search of the monster and found someone blowing up the monster's den before he was viciously attacked fact. He tells Wednesday that the person who perpetrated this had unique red boots, and if you go all the way back to episode 1, you'll see this clue of Miss Thornhill's muddy red boots. Miss Thornhill is played by Christina Ricci, who played Wednesday in the 1990 films. So Wednesday decides to confront the real monster controlling Tyler, her teacher, Miss Thornhill. But as Wednesday theorizes, Miss Thornhill isn't her real name. She's actually Laurel Gates, daughter of notorious outcast hater Ansel Gates. You see, the Gates and Addams family have beef going back hundreds of years. In the early 1600s, the town of Jericho was led by a pilgrim named Joseph Crackstone, an ancestor of the Gates family. He ordered all outcasts, or those he thought had supernatural powers, burned. One of these outcasts was Goody Addams, a distant ancestor of Wednesday's. Goody would go on to create the Nightshade Society to protect her kind from Crackstone's oppression. A few hundred years later, the battle between Crackstone and the outcasts wages on. Ansel Gates, furious that the outcasts have built a school on what he believes to be their land, orders his son Garrett to infiltrate the Nevermore dance and spike the punch with poison. But as we see in one of Wednesday's visions, while Gomez fights Garrett, who apparently has a crush on Morticia, the vial of poison breaks and infects him, turning him into a blind rage. Garrett's death at the hands of Morticia was covered up. His father drank himself to death, mother hung herself, and sister went overseas, where it was said she drowned. But she never drowned at all. As it turns out, this sister, Laurel Gates, took on a pseudonym, Teresa L. Glau, which, if you rearrange the letters, spells out Laurel Gates. The Gates mansion was purchased by a 90-year-old candy heiress who mysteriously died and gave the place to her caregiver, one Teresa Glau. Teresa then switched her name yet again to Miss Thornhill and got a job at Nevermore. But Laurel's master plan is far from reaching fruition. As we'll see later on, Laurel wants to resurrect Joseph Crackstone himself to rain fire on the outcasts and avenge her family once and for all. But first, Wednesday shows off her detective skills by revealing Laurel's plan. She used a chemical made from her plants to unlock the monster within Tyler. She would have known Tyler is a Hyde because her father kept tabs on all the monsters in town, and Tyler's mom was known to be one. By manipulating Tyler, she eventually became his master. As we learn in episode 7 from Nathaniel Faulkner's journal, the founder of Nevermore obsessed with outcasts and monsters, that Hydes develop a bond with whomever releases them.
This act causes the Hyde to develop an immediate bond with its liberator, who the creature now sees as its master.
By becoming Tyler's master, Laurel was able to carry out gruesome attacks against any of her enemies, including Dr. Kinbot, who came too close to discovering the truth about Tyler. And guess who happens to show up during this confrontation? None other than Tyler, who Laurel instructs to kill Wednesday. But surprise, surprise, it isn't Tyler at all, but none other than Principal Weems, who has shapeshifted. Earlier in the season, Wednesday discovered by going through an old yearbook that Principal Weems could shapeshift, and she used this opportunity to bring the principal herself to Laurel's confession. Unfortunately for Principal Weems, she's poisoned by Laurel and Wednesday is knocked out. Now you might be asking yourself, how come Laurel doesn't just kill Wednesday right here? That's because she still needs her for her master plan, resurrecting Joseph Crackstone. When Wednesday awakens, she finds herself chained in Crackstone's tomb on Raven Island. There, Laurel has begun a magic ritual containing various body parts of Tyler's victims. Only by using these items on the night of a blood moon and combining them with the blood of an Addams family member, the family line that killed Crackstone those hundreds of years ago, can Joseph be resurrected. This is why Goody Addams, in a vision to Wednesday, warns her that she is the key. Laurel slashes Wednesday's palm and the blood reacts to the tomb. Joseph Crackstone is resurrected to seek his revenge on the outcasts, and of course, first is Wednesday, who he thinks is Goody. He makes quick work of her, stabbing her in the stomach as he and Laurel make their way to Nevermore. Meanwhile, Eugene calls Enid to let them know he hasn't heard from Wednesday or Principal Weems since they went on to confront Laurel, prompting Enid and the gang to assemble the Nightshade Society to warn Nevermore that trouble is on the way. And the perfect way to do this is through the Sirens, who use their power of manipulation to get the staff and students out of the building. As she lay dying, Wednesday is visited by the spirit of Goody. Goody tells her the only way to kill Crackstone is to stab him directly in his black heart. But there's one problem.
Is your spectral vision impaired? I'm dying.
In episode 1, you'll remember Morticia gave Wednesday an obsidian necklace, one with a special connection to the spirit world. Goody uses this talisman to pass through Wednesday and heal her. With a deadly leprechaun-looking pilgrim on its way to Nevermore, Wednesday rushes back to the academy, but is stopped by Tyler. He turns into Hyde, about to kill Wednesday when she's saved by Enid in werewolf form. Throughout the season, Enid has been self-conscious about her inability to turn into one. It seems every one of her friends and family has the ability to do it, but all she can muster are these elongated claws. But on the night of a blood moon, when her friend needs her most, Enid transforms into a werewolf and takes on the Hyde, eventually stopping Tyler and putting him in custody. In fact, it's Tyler's own dad who shoots him and takes him in. That's gonna be an awkward Thanksgiving. Back at Nevermore, Wednesday prepares for the final showdown and grabs the same sword her father used to take on Garrett Gates 32 years ago. But it soon becomes apparent that Crackstone's skills are not of this world. He stops Xavier's arrow mid-air. You may remember Xavier showing off his bow skills earlier in the season. He escaped from the sheriff's cop car with the help of Thing. Wednesday, who once lamented that friends are a weakness, actually steps in front of the arrow and saves Xavier from being shot. It mirrors her life being saved by him in episode 1. It's also a nice way to apologize for falsely accusing him of murder and sending him to jail. Crackstone and Wednesday duke it out, where we get to see Wednesday's fencing skills put to the test. Alas, she is no match for her pilgrim foe, and it's only when Bianca comes to the rescue that Wednesday's able to use this distraction and stab him through his black heart. He disintegrates, leaving behind only his ring. I thought it was pretty interesting that they did a close-up of this ring. Was this just a fun shot they wanted to add, or could it be used in the future to potentially bring him back? Speaking of bringing someone back, there's good old Laurel, who's none too pleased that her grand plan has fallen to hell. Literally. She may not have been able to kill all the outcasts, but at least she'll be able to kill Wednesday. And in a shocking turn of events, a bunch of bees come to save the day.
Not the bees!
Yes, Eugene is able to harness the power of the bees to incapacitate Laurel, and this is the last we see of her. We can assume she'll be arrested, but no word if she'll make a return in any future seasons. Outside the courtyard, Enid and Wednesday have their first hug. Throughout the season, Wednesday has shied away from hugging, but here she instigates it, showing just how far she's come along as a character. And just as the season comes to an end, so too does Wednesday's book. She's been writing this story of a young girl named Viper de la Muerte and her overbearing mother, a story which mimics her real life. The question mark after the end is also a question on whether or not the show will get a season 2. Wednesday also says goodbye to Xavier. All charges have been dropped and the two seem friends again. She did take an arrow for him after all. To show his appreciation, he's given her a cell phone so they can stay in touch over the break. No doubt the relationship between Wednesday and Xavier will be explored next season, especially with Tyler out of the picture. Well, kinda. The last shot of the season is him transforming back into the Hyde as he's escorted away. I personally think it would be pretty cheap if he escaped here. They know he's a Hyde and he's supposed to be chained up so that even if he did transform, he wouldn't be able to escape. Similar to how Xavier was chained up in the police station when they thought he was a Hyde. What I do think will come into play next season is this mysterious text Wednesday receives on her phone. Wednesday believes it to be a stalker who has been taking photos of her throughout the season, so we can probably rule out Xavier and Tyler here. If I were to take a guess on who it is, my money would be on either someone we haven't met yet or Bianca. Bianca is the only one who has a real motive to stalk Wednesday when she's with these other boys. Remember that Bianca and Xavier used to date, so she may be jealous of Wednesday and this budding connection. Bianca's family also makes phone apps that indoctrinate its users, so I wonder if that will come into play at all. But who do you think